Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. For those who are new here, my name is Nicki. I'm an author and an editor and I share videos here on YouTube about reading, writing, editing and all the other things I love. Which brings us to today's video, which is my end of the month wrap up of the films and TV I've been watching. So without any further ado, we'll crack straight on. First of all, this is a film that I saw at the cinema in May, although it came after I filmed my last vlog, so I'll just catch you up now. And that was Solo, a Star Wars story. I enjoy Star Wars. I'm not the sort of fan where I collect everything, read all the books and all that sort of thing, but I enjoy the movies. This one, I gave it 4 stars. I think it was an enjoyable sci-fi adventure story. Is it the best Star Wars film they've made? No, definitely not. But it had a lot going for it still, just as a bit of enjoyable family fun. In terms of the casting, I mean, I think, oh my goodness, his name has completely drifted out of my mind. I'll remember it and post it like up here again in a second. Is it Alden? Something like that, who's playing Han. I liked him physically. I thought his physicality, in terms of his stance, particularly firing blasters, really was reminiscent of Harrison Ford, and you could kind of see the two of them together. What didn't work so well for me was the accent, the speech. It was just the rhythm of the language didn't really feel the same as Harrison Ford's. And I'm not saying that he should have tried to do an impersonation of Harrison Ford, but just to get the rhythm of the speech similar so that we could feel that yes, he would grow up and become Harrison Ford's Han Solo would have been nice, I think. But in other ways, it was enjoyable. There were plenty of laughs, plenty of action. So depends what you're looking for, I guess. The stalwart fans may find too many complaints, but I still thought it was watchable and good. Next up, I saw Cargo. This was another, no, it's a 4.5 star actually. Oh, I nearly said another 4 star. It's a 4.5. It's, I guess you'd call it a zombie film. It's an Australian indie film. I would say it's really more of a dystopian drama, although zombies are involved. It's not a zombie horror movie, Evil Dead kind of thing. There were some shocks. There were a few moments when a zombie would appear and I jumped in my seat, but essentially it was more about the emotional journey of Martin Freeman's character, who's, there's a zombie apocalypse essentially going on as we start the film. He and his wife and baby are in a riverboat in Australia, trying to steer clear of it, head away from the danger. Unfortunately, his wife is infected and shortly dies and infects him at the same time before she goes. So he has 48 hours before he turns into a raging monster in order to get his baby somewhere safe. So that's basically the thrust of the film. He's on this journey. He meets an Aboriginal girl along the way and they end up travelling together. They both have problems of their own going on. And it was a really wonderful film. Excuse me. I thought it was really emotional. I was having a bit of a sob by the end. As I said, a few jumps and a few shocks, but it's more a drama than a horror film. But definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. Next up I saw The Bookshop. This time I'm correct in saying this is another 4 star for me. It's an interesting piece about a woman who lives in a small town and decides she wants to open a bookshop in a house that's been derelict for years. But once she makes this decision, all the locals band against her, led by one of the sort of leading society figures of the area, trying to put a stop to it because they don't want it to be a bookshop. They have some weird idea that it should either be vacant or used for an art centre. However, she finds support in the form of Bill Nye, who's a reclusive gentleman, an avid reader who lives nearby. It's not a happy film. It's not one of those films where there's a big feel-good ending and romance wins out and she gets her bookshop and everything's hunky-dory. It's a little bit more bittersweet, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the drama was excellent. Bill Nye is always wonderful. This was a perfect sort of role for him, sort of recalcitrant bookworm, if you like. Well worth seeing, but just don't expect it to be a big rom-com kind of ending. Where you will get a big rom-com kind of ending is in the next film I watched, which was the Guernsey Literary and Potato Field Pie Society. another 4-star watch for me. For those who haven't come across the book or the film yet, it's basically about a woman who's a writer slash journalist, and she hears, by chance really, about a literary society that formed on Guernsey during the occupation by the Nazis. And she decides to go over there and write a story about them, because it sounds like a wonderful story, how their club came to form and how it kept them going through the occupation years. However, when she gets out there, she discovers that everything's not quite how it first seemed. She's got an American boyfriend, but she finds herself falling for the local farmer, who's one of the literary club members. And I won't give away what happens, but you can expect from this one a traditional rom-com kind of ending. There's some laughs, some tears along the way. It's a little bit contrived here and there, but it is still a really great fun piece, so well worth seeing. I haven't actually watched any TV series on Netflix this month. I've done 2 re-watches of series that I have on DVD. The first one was Hannibal. I re-watched series 1 to 3. For those who know me, you'll know I'm a huge fan of this TV series. I'm still hoping they will eventually get a series 4 produced somewhere along the line. It's such a beautiful series, and it sounds weird to say that about a series that's really about vicious serial killings, but it is. It's beautifully shot. Rewatching it this time after a bit of a gap, I really noticed as well how important the music is and the soundscape of the series. You can close your eyes and just listen to the sounds, and you get a real emotional sense of what's happening. It's absolutely amazing. Beautiful cinematography, beautiful shots, wonderful performances by Hugh Dancy and Mads Mikkelsen as Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter. And I loved the relationship between the two of them and the way it developed through the series as well. If you haven't seen it, really, really check it out. It's absolutely wonderful. I don't think I've seen a more cinematic TV series ever, apart from this one so far, so worth a look. And the other one I watched was From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV series version. Again, 3 series. I really enjoy this. This is the second time I've watched it all the way through, and I love the sort of snake-like vampires, I guess. It's kind of vampires but with a twist, drawn more on South American culture and mythology. I hadn't seen the original film until after I'd watched the TV series the first time. And I have to say, I do think the TV series is better. I don't have anything against the film, it's watchable, but you don't really get any time to come to care for the characters, particularly the Gecko brothers. They're just very two-dimensional in many ways in the film. And what I love about the TV series is that we really get to know them. They come across as really well-developed three-dimensional characters. Seth's great, but Richie's my favourite. He's such an interesting figure, and I love his journey through the story. And I think all the characters just really come across in the TV show better, because with a series you do have more time to develop them, to get to know them, whereas in an hour-and-a-half film you just got to tell the story and you haven't got as much time for doing all that. But I really love it. I love all the vampire stuff in it. My husband was watching it a little bit with me. He was laughing at some of the special effects. They obviously didn't have the biggest budget for some of them, but it's still great fun. So if you like vampires, want something that's a little bit different and you haven't seen this, From Dusk Till Dawn. So I did watch a few films on demand, so I will tell you about those now. First up, I had a little session watching some old Almodovar films. I'd seen some of his newer stuff, but a lot of the older classic Spanish ones I hadn't got around to watching, and I noticed they were on SBS On Demand. So I watched High Heels. I really enjoyed that. Essentially a young woman has just got married and her mother comes back into her life after a bit of separation. It turns out that her new husband used to be her mother's lover, and there's a bit of a murder mystery that goes on at the same time, a bit of sort of a noir feel. Really great fun. Funny but also dramatic. Definitely recommend that one. Also for Almodovar, I watched Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. This was my least favourite of the ones I watched. It was funny, but I was never fully invested in it, and I sort of found myself sitting there doing other things at the same time. Dark Habits, again, it's probably a middling one for me. It was funny. I enjoyed the satire of the religious institutions. There's a little bit of a Sister Act kind of vibe to this one, because the lounge singer is potentially going to be in trouble with some bad people and disappears into a nunnery to try to hide, essentially. But there's all sorts of weird things going on with some lesbian connotations. The sisters are all taking drugs, and it's very comedic, but a very dark, black kind of comedy. And the last one for Almodovar that I watched was Broken Embraces. I really loved this one. This was my favourite of the four. It's much more of a serious drama, although there were a few more light-hearted moments, about a screenwriter, a filmmaker who's become blind after a car crash. And during the course of the film, we come to learn what caused the accident and what was going on with the people in his life behind the scenes. So a real emotional impact kind of piece, and definitely worth having a look at. I watched a couple of Danish ones too. First one I watched was Eneste Ene, the one and only. And I really enjoyed that. I've actually previously seen the American remake they did, and I have to say I like the American remake, but I think I like the original Danish version more. It has a lot of heart, a lot of great comedy and humour. It's a rom-com with a nice happy ending, but it's a bit of a quirky, fun one, so worth checking out. The other piece I watched was Skyskraber, Skyskraber. I can't even say it in English now, Skyskraber. And this was about a boy who's in his village. He's considered a bit simple. He's looked down on because of an accident that was his fault, although he was only young at the time. He didn't do it on purpose. And he ends up befriending a blind girl. It's kind of a teenage coming-of-age / love story, and I thought it had some really wonderful, poignant moments. Definitely worth checking out. One that I don't recommend so much watching is Compulsion. Now, this story had loads of potential as a young woman who had previously been in a bit of a sex cult had gotten out and is then invited back by the man she used to be with. And stupidly she goes. Of course, chaos ensues, a bit of blood and murder and ritual sacrifice and things going on. And it had a lot of potential. It could have been a really great psychological thriller, but I just felt they played up the erotic stuff too much just for shock value. And I never really connected. I didn't care about her as a character. I think if they'd made me relate to her, care about her, then I would have been more worried about whether she'd get out of the situation, but I really wasn't. It was pretty lackluster. Pretty much sat there kind of just doing this all the way through. So not one I really enjoyed. I then watched Gods of Egypt. This one's a little bit different. This is a film that I kind of feel I shouldn't like, and yet I couldn't help liking it. It takes Egyptian mythology and plays a bit fast and loose with it, but that aside, I mean, it's a bit silly, it's a bit cheesy, but it is really great fun fantasy action flick. If you like things like Clash of the Titans and that, then you probably will enjoy Gods of Egypt. I was really watching it for performances by actors that I liked in it. I mean, there were a few big name actors in it. Gerard Butler, Nicola Costa-Waldau. And they were all fine. It was just a bit of a silly film, but one of those ones that you can kind of sit back and relax, bit of popcorn, nice night, and you don't have to think about it too much. Next I watched Marguerite. This is a French film about based on a true story about a woman who wants to sing opera, and because none of her friends want to upset her, for years they've let her believe that she's reasonably good and she puts on private concerts, but then an opportunity arrives for her to sing in public, and so a lot of hilarity and heartache as well ensues. I thought this was a really delightful film, brilliant performances, and I thought it was an interesting look about when is it good to lie to someone and when should you carefully tell them the truth. Next up I watched Selfless, which after I started watching it I realised I had seen before, but I rewatched it anyway, about essentially body jumping. An older guy is going to die. He's told he can be brought back to life in a cloned, like grown body. However, later he starts having all these memories that aren't his, and he discovers that the body wasn't cloned at all, it was someone else's, and there was a whole other life that that person had. So it becomes a bit of a thriller as he goes on the run with his body's wife and their kid, and tries to escape from the guys who gave him the new body to begin with. So it's good fun. It's a Ryan Reynolds piece, and he's pretty good in it. So worth a watch if you just want a blockbuster thriller kind of thing with a bit of a sci-fi twist. Next up, I saw Chasing Liberty, and I watched this because we do have the TV adaptation of A Discovery of Witches coming soon. Matthew Good is playing Matthew Claremont in it, and I'm already anticipating he will be my next actor crush. So I'm doing a little bit of backlist watching for Matthew to get me started. And this one has him as a Secret Service agent, and the daughter of the president. She's fed up of the Secret Service guys following her around everywhere. She decides to break free, escapes people and runs off on her own, and meets Matthew Good's character, not knowing that he is also Secret Service, and he doesn't tell her. He's told just to stick with her, those are his orders, and keep her safe, but without revealing who he is. They end up, of course, falling in love. It's a rom-com, and when she finds out, she feels completely betrayed, but a happy ending will ensue in the end. And I think that's about it, except to say that I did also, I forgot, watch the finale of Sense8. I loved Sense8 all through seasons 1 and 2. I enjoyed the finale. It was really great that they were able to do it and to wrap everything up and give us a proper ending when after the show was cancelled. But overall I liked it. The only thing I thought was it could have been about 10-15 minutes shorter. I mean, it was over 2 hours, and that was fine, all the while stuff was happening, but at the end we had that really lengthy wedding scene, and I did just feel that there was so much talking and stuff going on, and that could have all been trimmed a lot tighter. The action was over, the bad guys were defeated. Did we need that long of a finale? That was my only reservation on it, but as a series overall, this is definitely a 5-star series for me. Sense8 was brilliant, wonderful, diverse and interesting show. So those are all my TV and film watches for June. I will be back again at the end of July to tell you about what else I've been watching. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now, everyone.